Welcome, my children, for another horrible day in this existence of life. I'm here to offer you a respite and discuss more of my favorite thing in the world, the works of J.R.R. Tolkien. You see, before Return of the King, there was this work of art that came out in 2002, a year prior. The Two Towers is another hack-and-slash video game, although technically it came before Return of the King, so it should be the hack-and-slash video game for Lord of the Rings, in which inputting combos will help you progress through levels in a flourish, while building up to the final climax at Helm's Deep. And trust me, you're gonna need to get good by the time you get there, because Helm's Deep will certainly put you to the test with how fucking hard it is. And since you only get the option to play a level once as a single character before beating the game, you best be sure you're good at that character by the time you get to the final levels, because they're really difficult. Bolstered by the official movies from New Line, The Two Towers promises a lot to offer, and while this isn't necessarily wrong to disagree with, the game is pathetically short, often making up for its short length with painfully difficult level designs. This isn't really to say that there's no merit to skill required, but Jesus fucking Christ, can this game get a little rough around the edges? Stormfront Studios, EA, and New Line still go above and beyond, in my opinion, to offer an incredibly tight experience, mixing the soundtrack of The Fellowship, superb sound design, and an entire reprising cast of the actors, who have really no issue changing from their on-screen roles to a video game, which is wonderfully talented of them.
We must save everyone that we can, or this village will fall.
Our story begins at the Battle of Daggerlad, and the final fight against Sauron of the Second Age as Isildur, son of the king, as you learn the ropes of the game. Before you really start a level, you're always treated to an intro cutscene that usually uses footage from the movies, before melding into the engine's graphics, and starting the player off. For the most part, this technique works very well, and seems rather tastefully into the gameplay. Well, most of the time. Gimli, what happened to you? There are some 11 levels to this game, including this intro stage. But before we're done here, we have one more level with Aragorn, really introducing us to the real elements of the current story itself. Hey, wait a minute. Hey, Aragorn feels familiar. Does he just play like Isildur? Whatever. I don't really see how that's going to become a problem or anything later. In this game, many events are portrayed through Aragorn, giving an explanation and recollection to Éowyn, while they await the Uruk-hai to finish marching to Helm's Deep, all the way up to what would presently be the battle itself.
My own.
To Helm's Deep. Prego, go! All Isengard is empty. It is an army bred for one purpose, to destroy the world of men. The Dark Lord draws near.
I think this concept is pretty interesting and adds a bit of dynamic, other than just flashing movie clips at the player before throwing them at it. From here on out, we have some choices to play as Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli. Each one of them all shares basic and strong attack, as well as a ranged ability for those dastardly enemies outside of boundaries. Each character still levels up separately, but essentially all the combos are the same, just renamed, varied by person. Obviously, my favorite character is Aragorn because he's the perfect brawler with a bit of finesse. But Legolas with an extended quiver of 60 arrows is pretty fucking goddamn overpowered. And I don't even think anyone played Gimli, even though he fucking rakes the competition with his attack damage. Sorry, dude, but let's be real here. If you played Gimli, I don't believe you. You know, although I think the devs counted on 0 people playing Gimli ever, which is why your NPC ally in most levels is usually Gimli. In fact, Legolas's character has very few personal lines of dialogue compared to Gimli. That's really because if you play Gimli, you're accompanied by Aragorn, and if you play Aragorn or Legolas, it's always Gimli. Huh. Well played, Stormfront. Very well played. The varied environments are really nice, and the pacing for how difficult enemies are is pretty well placed. And for the most part, the game really feels like it's building you up to the ultimate battle ahead. And the cutscenes can get so cinematic, it feels pretty nice to relax before you get into the action. My favorite level is Amen Hen, simply because the action is so damn tight. Tight! The Horn of Gondor ringing out as you and your allies barrel through the hordes of terrifying Uruks to help your allies, culminating in a boss fight with ya boy Lurtz, which can be a bit tough before you figure out what to do. Although it's kind of amusing to go back at max level and do a charged fierce attack to immediately fuck him up. I'm a simple man, alright? I do simple things with my life. How did I get here? Why am I so unsatisfied with my life? The Two Towers won't answer these questions. Neither will I. To help pad out the game, there's a handful of treats to be earned as well, including movie stills and concept art and interviews with the actors and producers, a tradition obviously carried over to the next game, which I still think is really cool. I always think it's a really nice treat to see more of these wonderful people. Except for you, Peter Jackson. Fuck you. You ruined The Hobbit. How could you do this to me? How could you do this? I think at this point I'm fully aware that Peter Jackson had a lot less to do with making a good Lord of the Rings film than I thought. Granted, he was probably a bit more passionate a long time ago, but something tells me that, Peter Jackson's not actually a good director. There's also a horde mode to unlock after the game is over, and there's also a secret character. Now, when I was young, I was really excited to see who it was, because this game is so goddamn hard that it's kind of hard to beat sometimes. And I was, of course, pretty let down to see that the secret character was just a Isildur. Well, that's not a secret. What the fuck? I already was a Isildur. I don't know. I played this jackass already. Can't you give me something else like Gandalf, so I can give people the electric noodle over here? That just looks like fun. Why not Boromir? You can see Boromir in the Baline's tomb level. Checks out to me here that he's got fleshed out attacks and animations. I don't know. Just fucking copy and paste Aragorn's face on him. You're good to go, mate! And like I said, dipshit is sealed envelope is just a retextured Aragorn with no real seeming personality. He's dressed up in his Gondor armor too, which never really made sense to me that he fights like a ranger to me. I don't know. Whatever. I guess. At least Aragorn makes some costume changes, yeah? Check this shit out! At first, he's in his rugged gray ranger stuff, but as the game goes on, he actually changes outfits. How fucking cool is that noise? Alright, that's cool. That's the little attention to detail that I really appreciate, okay? Speaking of the Gappa Rohan level, some of the things in this level really stuck with me as a child. Hey, thanks, dude! The people screaming in terror on fire? Yeah, I don't know. I remember that shit. Crows pecking after the battles. I don't know. That visual stuff, that really stuck with me. I remember that shit. And, oh yeah, these loathsome fucking bastards. These goddamn Uruk-hai berserkers are super tough enemies to fight. Though they usually only come at you in single combat, the only real effective way to dispatch these rat bastard dickheads is through the instant kill maneuver, which can be a little tough to pull off sometimes. They will nearly always parry regular attacks, and will time you out if you try to parry bait them into attacking you. If you parry too long, they'll just grab you by the fucking collar and mug you for your lunch money. It's not a good time for you. Still, I gotta give credit for designing a good foe. Hey! I see you over there. Who do you think you're fooling over there? That's no tree. Ah! You're not a tree either! Help! I said help! You know, in fact, the majority of these enemies have pretty good design. Moria goblins are pretty standard, weak foes, but they can carry shields. Dual-wielding orcs have an interruptible spin attack that can still be blocked. And then, of course, other ones just have a shield. Uruk berserkers are fucking bullshit. Uruk-hai swordsmen are much hardier and can take more hits than a goblin, and trolls come in two variants. Count 'em, two variants. Weaker trolls can be outranged. Throwing shit at them until they die is definitely a solution. Stronger ones appear later that shrug off range attacks, though, and must be dealt with up close. Very rarely will the opportunity come where you can plug in a charged fierce attack, but they can usually be stunned out by timing fierce attacks properly. Not always, though, because their two melee attacks have varied speed. Still, some really good thought behind most of these enemies. And now for the real questions here. Are the final levels kind of a bunch of shit? Yes, absolutely. The Helm's Deep Courtyard level is so incredibly overwhelming that it freaks me out to play, and I wouldn't normally put myself through the stress. getting stunned out by the high number of enemies and having to go up and babysit either Legolas or Aragorn, depending on who you're playing, is an absolute goddamn chore. And it's just so fucking hard, man. And then there's trolls and what the fuck? And hey, that's not Orlando Bloom. Who are you? Overall, there's certainly some skill behind excelling at the two towers, but I mostly think it's incredible difficulty of usually defending a second fucking health bar, and its usual lack of checkpoints is clearly a tactic to exceed the game's horribly short length. You can breeze through a level in about 10 minutes if you really know what you're doing, and especially if you're at max level. Excuse me. Sorry about that. That being said, I still think this game is a whole lot of fun, and the graphics still hold up to me in a lot of places. The texture resolution is really good, easily sporting maps of 512 by 512, which not every game at this time gave you. Its texture resolution definitely outpaces the Return of the King, which seems to graphically downgrade itself, though I mostly believe that was really intentional, since there are usually far more things just running all over the place, being in the fucking way. Going back to 2002, this must have been pretty wild, since it came out a little bit before the winter debut of the actual movie. If you've never played this rather now retro game, I highly suggest you grab out your old systems and dig out a copy somewhere, or just emulate it. The controls aren't too terribly complicated, but I mean, I'd recommend using a controller above anything else. If you were to ask me which of the two EA Lord of the Rings games I preferred, which, I mean, you're probably not, but I'm going to tell you anyway, I'd probably say Return of the King. The experience is much more refined, and the extended options to create a more dynamic experience is simply more refreshing to me. Replaying the Return of the King feels more personally rewarding, since the levels were more crafted for different characters, thus making it a little bit more fun to play a level as Merry on a map made for Gandalf, rather than just replaying the same level as a slightly fucking different version of Aragorn. Seriously, why not Boromir? That would have been really cool to be Sean Bean at Helm's Deep and not die and not eat shit at the end of the level. Come on. Alright, that's really about it for now. See you later!